Great. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for White Plains Hospital's first Well-Aware cooking demonstration. I'm Geraldine Della Cava, the new co-president of the Friends of White Plains Hospital, and I'll be moderating today's event. I'd like to also introduce Kathy Winterall, my co-president, who has been leading the Friends initiatives for over 4 years, as well as serving on the hospital's board of directors. Kathy has provided amazing guidance and has taken such an active role to support the hospital's mission and vision. For those of you who may be unaware, the Friends share the common goals of the hospital, aiming to improve the health and well-being of the community through awareness, service, and fundraising. COVID-19 has been a difficult time for all of us. As we try to keep ourselves and our families healthy, we also look for some sense of normalcy and connection. Today's virtual demonstration is a great opportunity to connect with each other and find joy and inspiration during these challenging times. It's also an example of how White Plains Hospital is finding innovative ways to get you valuable information you can use to lead a healthier and happier life. We'll be getting started with our program shortly, but before we begin, I just wanted to review a few housekeeping items for our Zoom presentation today. We'll be keeping everyone's microphones muted to minimize feedback and disruptions during the presentation. There will be a brief Q&A at the conclusion of the event, so everyone will have the opportunity to ask questions. To do this, please utilize the chat feature located along the bottom of your Zoom application. Be sure to send your questions privately to me as opposed to sending them to the entire group. We also suggest keeping your view in speaker mode. This will help maximize your viewing experience. Now, those are the housekeeping, that's the boring stuff. The great stuff is about to start. Without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our special guest. She is a registered dietitian, a celebrity chef, and a New York Times best-selling author. You may know her from the Today Show, where she is the nutrition and healthy lifestyle expert. She is also the host of NBC's Health and Happiness and the founder of Joy Bauer Ventures. She recently released a new cookbook, Superfood, highlighting recipes that can help people enhance their health, boost energy, and increase longevity. And today, she is going to give us a few tips about quick, healthy meals that anyone can make. It is my pleasure to introduce our friend, Joy Bauer. Joy, we're all excited to see what's cooking.
Up on the screen. I know that I have a bunch of friends who are joining, and this is my kitchen. So welcome to my kitchen. A little bit about my relationship with White Plains Hospital. So I had my 3 kids in the city, and about 20 years ago, I moved to Westchester, and loving the burbs. And from that point on, have been really an avid supporter of White Plains. And I do have to say that every single family member has been to the emergency room and has also been to less of an emergency, more relaxed type of appointment. And just to me, White Plains Hospital really does prevail in every single way. And they have certainly been a shining star within the Westchester community during this entire COVID pandemic. I hope that everybody's doing okay. I hope that everybody is safe and healthy. I hope you're ready to be hungry, and I'm excited for a health party. A little bit about what I think we're going to do today, because we're going to take it in all different directions. But what the plan is, I'm going to first start and make 3 different recipes, and I had all sorts of ideas of what I wanted to make, loads and loads of deliciousness, and we sort of huddled, the executives from White Plains Hospital and myself, and we picked 3 things that I'm hoping you're going to love. So the first thing, sort of in the spirit of the fabulous and luscious herbs that so many of us are growing in our gardens, we're making a savory garden pancake with a yogurt herb sauce. And the cool thing about this recipe is that you guys are getting a sneak peek, because I'm debuting it on the Today Show. I'm cooking it up with Al Roker on Friday morning. So if you catch it, you'll be like, been there, done it. So that's the first recipe. The second recipe, I'm gonna make one of my favorites. It's a tarragon chicken salad. It is so super simple, but it just sort of sophisticates and elevates humdrum chicken salad to the next level. And there's a couple of different directions that you'll be able to take it in. The third recipe, guys, you know me, we gotta do a cocktail. So we are going to do watermelon margaritas. And I think you all picked the watermelon margaritas because I gave you the option of blackberry margaritas or watermelon, and there was an overwhelming response for watermelon. But after this Zoom is over, we're going to send you the recipe links on my website for all of the recipes. So I don't want you to feel that you have to memorize or start taking notes and things like that, because you'll have the links, you'll have all of the full ingredients and instructions and directions, and you'll have both margaritas, I promise. And I'll also show you how to make a mocktail if alcohol is not your thing. Then at the end, I would love to answer your questions. But I do need to say that if you have questions while I'm cooking about any of the recipes, like this is casual, this is chill, go into that chat session and or that chat feature and write down what some of your questions are, because if it pertains to the recipes, I am betting like loads of other people have the very same questions as well. So I'm gonna jump in and we're gonna make pancakes. So I hope you're hungry. So the first thing I'm going to say is normally pancakes are sweet and starchy and indulgent and like the ultimate comfort food. But I promise you, even though these are lower in carb and they're layered with superfood ingredients, they still give you that sort of like decadent, indulgent comfort food feel. And the star of our show is the zucchini. And I love working with zucchinis in the summer, and you know, they're so abundant. So whether you're going to the grocery store, you're growing them in your backyard, or you're getting them from a farmer's market, or a lot of people now are also taking advantage of deliveries, it's pretty easy to get zucchinis. And you can use green or you can use yellow. The cool thing is you don't have to, you know, worry about the skin at all. So just give it a good wash. You're going to cut off each of the sides, and then you're going to take any kind of a grater. I use the largest hole, and you're going to grate 4 zucchinis. This one happens to be gigantic, but normally I'll use about 4 medium zucchinis. So this was a really big one, so about 3 of them. Then what I do is I have all my zucchini shreds, and I'll put them in a bowl just like this. I had put them in this bowl with a little bit of kosher salt, and I let it sit for about 10 minutes. Now what that does is it draws out some of the water, drain off that water. Then you take your shreds and you're going to either put them into a cheesecloth or any kind of kitchen towel, or what I did this morning was I layered a whole bunch of paper towels, not so efficient, but it was the closest thing to my bowl. And then you wring out all of the excess moisture. Discard the towel, you put the zucchini shreds back in, and now you have a bowl of dense zucchini shreds with a lot of the moisture out. Zucchini is great because it is packed with potassium, and potassium helps to manage and lower your blood pressure. And also, by the way, it helps to get rid of some bloat as well, because sodium draws in water and potassium pushes out excess water. So now we're going to build our savory pancakes. So the next star is definitely going to be our herbs, because we're calling it garden savory garden pancakes. And when it comes to herbs, I'm using a 1/4 cup of chopped herbs. And herbs are so great because they can flavor up any recipe without having to add a lot of excessive salt or sugar. In fact, one of the questions that had come in was, how can I make soups without using a lot of salt? Herbs are always going to be your key. And while dried herbs are, you know, a good go-to, nothing beats the taste of fresh minced and chopped herbs. So, you know, if you can buy them or utilize them, great. But if you can't, the rule of thumb is for every 1 tablespoon of fresh chopped herbs, it's 1 teaspoon of dried herbs. But of course, you also want to make sure that your herbs haven't been sitting in the pantry for years, because the longer they sit, the less flavor they have. So I would say every 6 months or so, you definitely want to change those herbs that are in the pantry. And so I'm using here 2 tablespoons of dried minced dill and 2 tablespoons of minced parsley. But if you don't like dill, cilantro works, chives works, scallions works, anything goes. And if you don't really like a lot of herby flavor, stick with the parsley. That's fine as well. Now I'm adding 1 whole egg. And because I always like to lighten everything up, I'm also adding 2 egg whites, but you can certainly add 2 whole eggs if you want. And this is 3 teaspoons of onion powder. This is 1 teaspoon of garlic. Garlic, guys, has antiviral properties, so it's really good right now with COVID. This is a teaspoon of baking powder. Give it a little bit of a fluff. This is my flour. So because I'm using a lot of herbs and I'm using the zucchini, I can use way less than you would typically use in a flapjack. So this is 3/4 cup of whole wheat flour, but you are the boss of your flour. So if you are gluten-free, you could choose any gluten-free flour. If you only have all-purpose in the house, you could use all-purpose flour, because there's so much goodness other than the flour in the bowl. And if you're looking to dramatically cut carbs, I would say use almond flour. Perfect. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper in. This is a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And this is a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. I always use kosher salt, or a coarse sea salt. The last ingredient is optional. If you happen to have in the house some ground flaxseed, or it's also called flax meal, just ground flax seeds, I like to put in 1 to 2 tablespoons into all of my batters, because it adds those omega-3 fats, which are great anti-inflammatory compounds. And I'm just going to stir this up now. You will not taste the flaxseed, but if you don't have it in the house and you want to make this, you certainly do not need to add it in. So this, you know, takes a little bit of muscle work, which is always good. You can put some music on. You can give yourself some Michelle Obama arms. And this is going to blend into a really nice, smooth batter. Now I'm going to do a little bit of magic TV cooking, and I'm going to show you what the beauty looks like. So after I mash this up, I am going to bring it over to the skillet. I'm going to warm a little bit of oil. You can use an oil mister, or you could pour a little bit of oil on there. I like to use a neutral oil with a high smoke point. So normally I'll use for this either grapeseed oil or a canola oil. Those 2 oils work really well. Olive oil is going to give it a little bit of an olivey flavor that you don't necessarily want with this. Otherwise, I love olive oil. And you're going to warm over medium heat. And you are going to fake fry up each side for about 3 to 4 minutes on the first side. And then you'll flip it and you'll do 2 to 3 minutes on the second side. You want to be careful because you don't want to get the outsides too brown, but they're not done yet because the inside is still going to be a little bit soft. So what you're then going to do is you take your pancakes. They are going to look like this. And you're going to transfer them onto a baking sheet with either parchment paper, or you could just mist it with a little bit of oil spray and pop them in the oven for 8 to 10 minutes on 350. And then you have these awesome, I'm going to show you my finished pancakes, let's say. So here they are. They're really delicious. They freeze beautifully. which is always a nice asset. And you can serve them warm out of the oven, or you can also serve them cold or room temperature. Now they're great for breakfast, but they're really great for, you know, like a classy brunch, or we have them as somewhat of a unique side for supper. We just love these so much. You can eat them plain. I like to sometimes squeeze some fresh lemon juice over them or lime juice. And if any of you guys have younger kids, they're really good with some smashed avocado on top too. So there you go. If anybody's wondering about like calories or anything, each one is only 50 calories. It's got protein, it's got fiber, it's got antioxidant oomph. I mean, these are pancakes with benefits for sure. So this is the dipping sauce that I just love to make with them. So I'm going to show you how to make it because it's really easy. So I'm going to put this down over here. And now we're going to do our dipping sauce. So I start with, it's a yogurt herb dipping sauce. I start with 3/4 cup of a thick Greek yogurt. So I'm using a non-fat Greek yogurt. I usually like Faye, but I have to say that a lot of the store brands, the generic brands, have that same like super thick consistency, and sometimes it's easier to find them. So this is 3/4 cup. Now I'm doing the same exact thing. I have my 1/4 cup of minced herbs. Here I'm using, again, I flip for dill. So I'm using dill and parsley. But again, cilantro, chives, scallions, anything goes here. So I'm gonna dump this in. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice from about half a lemon. And I'm gonna put in a pinch of salt and a pinch of pepper. And if you don't like heat, you would stop right here. So we would go ahead and we would mash this up. But I am like the ultimate spicy chick. If you open up my refrigerator, there's an entire shelf of hot sauces. I love heat so much. So what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna show you what it looks like, I'm gonna put in 1 to 2 teaspoons of sriracha, and it will turn it a little bit pink. Let me see if I can get this. I need my overhead camera. I'm so afraid it's gonna spill. And this is a very, very light, flavorful sauce. Super light, it's very, very low in calories. It's got some calcium, it's got some protein, and there we go. And it's not just for these pancakes. I also love to put this on poached salmon or any mild whitefish. It's really delicious. Here you go. And honestly, it could be a dip too. See how easy that was? Super, super simple. Actually, here's the nicer looking one. Here's the looker. Okay. So that is our first recipe. I'm gonna hold this up again. I wish I could give you one. Here, take a bite. Okay, I'm gonna put this over to the side, and now we're going to make tarragon chicken salad. And if anybody has a question pertaining to the pancakes, ask away. Seriously, please ask. I have to give the biggest thanks to my husband, Ian, and my younger daughter, Aiden Jane, who doubles as my production team, my audio, my food stylists, everything. Let me get this. Let me give you this. Oh my goodness, I got a big mess here. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna grab the salt, A. Get my zucchinis.
Joy, we just have a couple questions about this recipe. How long can you keep the Savory Garden pancakes in the freezer? What is your suggestion on the length of time for that?
That's a great question. So not only for these pancakes, but for muffins and baked goods in general, what I like to say is as long as you wrap them really well, up to 3 months. But hopefully they're not going to last for 3 months in your freezer.
Not in my house.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned I really like to double and triple the recipe because, you know, as long as you're grating those zucchinis, you might as well grate like a whole big batch of them. And then and what you can also do, because this is exactly what happens in my house. You know, I have some cilantro lovers and some cilantro haters. And so I'll normally split batches and I'll vary up the herbs. Some will be plainer, some will be like a little bit more potent, depending upon your. And then just make sure that when you freeze them, you label what everything is and the date that you put it in there. Because otherwise, you know what happens, you end up with a whole big, great batch of mystery items and you have no idea what it is. And you put all this hard work into making the stuff and then you end up throwing it out. We don't want that to happen.
And do any of the health benefits from the vegetables decrease if they're frozen?
No, not when they're frozen. Sometimes if you, you heat food for a very, very long time, you will lose. And in fact, if you don't freeze and they sit in your refrigerator for day after day, you will minimize some of the sensitive vitamin content and the antioxidants. But when you freeze, you sort of lock in the state of what was going on within the fresh batch. And that's a great question, because it leads me to say that, you know, don't be afraid of frozen fruits and vegetables, because they pick them in the peak of ripeness, then they flash freeze them. And so they don't necessarily taste as fantastic as the fresh stuff, but a lot of times it may actually be more nutrient dense, because when we buy the fresh stuff and we let it sit day after day in the refrigerator, each day it gets a little bit less potent in terms of the nutrient density. Frozen, you don't have to worry about that. So I think like the bottom line is vary it up. Have lots of fresh stuff in your fridge and only shop as you need things, but stack things and stash them in your freezer as well.
And just a quick question, is there a way to freeze herbs?
Yes. Oh my God, you guys are asking the best questions. So when it comes to herbs, one of the things that I do, and it's so important to do this because there's nothing more heartbreaking when you have this like gorgeous fresh batch of herbs and you use what you needed to use and like all the leftovers turn brown in the refrigerator. I mean, honestly, I want to cry when that happens. So what you're going to do is mince all of them and then take an ice cube tray, an old-fashioned ice cube tray, and you can either, you pack in your herbs, spread it out between all of the different trays, and then you could put a little bit of broth on top, or you could put water, or you could put olive oil, and then freeze it in the freezer. Once they freeze, break open, pop them out of the compartments, put them in a zip top bag, and stash them in there just to free up some space, because it's a little clunky having the ice cubes in there. And then what you could do is defrost them. You can melt them into soups. You could put them into omelets, into casseroles, into anything, and it will automatically elevate the flavor. And that's how you don't waste your herbs.
I just have one last question about the savory or pancakes. Is there a substitute for the yogurt dip if you're lactose intolerant?
There's so many other dips. You can make a dip with avocado easily. And you could also, if you're lactose intolerant, there's a lot of dairy-free yogurts now. You could do it with a coconut yogurt, a soy yogurt, for sure. But you might just want to Google around and see if you could find a scrumptious, dairy-free herb dip. That doesn't necessarily have to be the same formulation. But easily you could use mine as long as you use a dairy-free yogurt. And nowadays, because so many people are going dairy-free, there's a lot of options.
Thank you.
Great questions. I love them. So now we're going to make this tarragon chicken salad. So a little bit about the history and how this came about. So we have a family home in the Berkshires, and there's this bagel shop. It's if anybody knows the Berkshires, it's Great Barrington Bagels, and they have this tarragon chicken salad to die for. It is so, so delicious. And of course, it was always a joke, like the guy wouldn't never give me the recipe, but I figured it out. So I deconstructed it and I made it a little bit lighter. Well, I put my own lightened up touch on, and it is really sensational. So if everybody is bored with chicken salad or just wants another no-bake summer recipe, and you love flavor, I hope that you give this one a try. So I'm just starting with 2 cups of shredded chicken. This could be leftover chicken breasts or thighs from the night before. Just take off the skin, or you could pick up a rotisserie chicken and you could dissect it a little bit. So let me put this over here. So we have 2 cups. The next thing I add in is jicama. And jicama is a little bit of a secret weapon in this recipe. If you have not cooked with jicama or tried it, you must. It's a little bit intimidating until you actually bring it home. The hardest part is just cutting it. So usually what I'll do is I'll peel a little bit and then I'll just chop it up. It also makes really great French fries. Love it. Google that recipe on my site, jicama, baked jicama French fries. Oh my God, they're so good. You won't even believe they're not potatoes. So speaking of potatoes, I would describe the taste of jicama almost like if an apple and a raw potato had a baby. That's what jicama tastes like. It's a more delicious, sweeter, nuttier, crunchier version of water chestnuts. So we are putting in here, this is half a cup of diced jicama. And you can see like little pieces. And they're nice and crunchy. I'll show you. Can you hear that? Okay. So I'm throwing that in there. And jicama is loaded with water. So it's really refreshing during the summer months. There's lots of ways to hydrate through food as well. The next thing that we're adding in is 3 tablespoons of either a chopped shallot or an onion. I'm using a red onion. Red onion is kind of neat. It's loaded with an antioxidant called quercetin, and interestingly enough, quercetin helps to tame seasonal allergies, and I know a lot of people are suffering right now, so that's a cool thing to know. Now we have our 4 teaspoons of fresh tarragon. So I'm putting this in. I wish you could smell my kitchen right now because the tarragon smells amazing. And unique. There's not a lot of recipes with tarragon, so that's why I really love this recipe. And then I have a tablespoon of chopped chives. Obviously, if anybody there is allergic or hates onions, you could just skip them completely. Then I have 3 tablespoons of light mayo. Now, if you want to skip the mayo altogether, you can use a non-fat Greek yogurt if you want, or any kind of Greek yogurt. I'm not afraid of mayo. I am using the light though because it saves a ton of calories. But if you don't care about the calories, just use the regular mayo for sure. And then I have 2 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice. This is going to brighten it up. Putting in half a teaspoon of kosher salt. Pinch of ground black pepper. You could add more if you want. If you want to kick up the heat, you could add crushed red pepper flakes. And so the last thing I'm going to add, I'm going to add in half a cup of sliced red grapes. So I want to give it, a sweet bite. And I love the contrast between the crunchy jicama and the onion and the sweet red grapes. But you could also put in an apple. And in fact, the Great Barrington Bagel creation uses either a Granny Smith apple or a Fuji apple. So either one is going to work. Either is going to give it that same sort of sweet crunch and also pop of color. And so if you use the apple, leave the skin on for 2 reasons. One is because you're going to get more fiber. But 2, because it's going to give you a nice pop of color. And this, what I like about this is the vibrancy. And there you have it. So, just with a few extra ingredients, you were able to take your everyday creamy chicken salad to a whole new level. And you can either serve this on a bed of greens, or what I like to do is I'll toast 1 slice of whole grain bread, like I have over here. So I have 1 slice of whole grain bread. Normally I'll layer it with some lettuce, tomato. I didn't have any tomato. I only had cherry tomatoes. I didn't have a large tomato. Maybe an onion slice. And I will put a big hunk of this on top. And you'll see how great this looks. And this is also one of those simple dishes that if you're having company over, it looks like you fussed. And you guys, you just saw I didn't fuss at all. Super simple. And it's neat to look for things to do with red grapes because red grapes have that resveratrol, and resveratrol is a hot antioxidant too that helps with anti-aging and enhances heart health. There you go. Does anybody have any questions on this one? Tarragon chicken salad. I need a drum roll. No?
Can you show a little more about how you actually cut the jicama? Like, it seems a little intimidating, I think, still.
Right. No, it's not intimidating at all. And one of the easiest things that you guys can do is to Google a YouTube video for how to anything. So even like if it were shredding the zucchini, anything that you don't know how to do. But in terms of the jicama, all you really need to do is
taking out a big sharp knife.
Yeah, you definitely need a sharp knife. But see, like you'll get a nice big chunk. So then all you need to do is you'll take the skin off. You could take the skin off with a peeler. Like usually what I'll do is I will cut it into chunks and then I'll peel the outside skin and then I'll just chop the inside. But one of the things that I really like to do with jicama is I'll do a larger chunk of the jicama and I'll cut them into fries, and then I'll squeeze some lime juice over and a little bit of cayenne pepper, and those are like delicious French fries, like freaky French fries. They're really good. But the one that I was talking about, when I said Google baked jicama fries on my site, that's a baked version that is truly just like you're eating French fries, and so much better for you and so much lighter.
We have another question, which is a great question. How do you keep apples from turning brown in a recipe?
Apples?
Yes. Do they, if you mix them in a recipe, will they turn brown?
The thing with this, when you make the tarragon chicken salad, you're not going to see any brown because you do have the mayo and you have so many different things going on in there. So for the apples, I've never had to worry about that. But if it ever is a worry, it's sort of just like avocado. If you put a little bit of fresh lemon juice over it or lime juice, you know, you should be good to go at least for a while, for sure. And one cool thing about avocados, a lot of people, you make guacamole, you make avocados, and then you put it in the refrigerator, and like hours later, it's toast, it's brown, it's yucky, and you end up throwing it out. So a few ways that you could extend the life and the vibrancy of your green avocado, you cut an avocado in half, and you use half, and then half is left over. Before you put it in the fridge, you could do a few things. One is you could squeeze lemon or lime over it and then wrap it up in saran wrap or plastic wrap, or put it in a sealed container. Another thing you could do is take out your oil mister, mist the top because you're creating a film over it, and then put it in the refrigerator. Or what you could do is you can quite literally put it in a container of water and put it in the refrigerator. And you should get up to 2 more days with that poor little leftover half of an avocado. We could do a whole one of these Zooms on kitchen hacks. I love them. I love them all.
So you spoke about the grapes and the apples added to it. Would you suggest another type of sweet fruit or something if you didn't want the apples or the grapes?
Well, if you don't even want to chop and you want the easy way out, you can certainly use raisins. You can use dried cranberries. They're just a little bit higher in sugar. They're more dense in sugar, but they're totally scrumptious and delicious and fuss-free. So it's a great option. And, you know, they're a big crowd pleaser, right? People love them. Right. So now we're going to make some margaritas. Hold on. I have my assembly line over here. All right. Mm-hmm. Let me grab and we'll make some rum noise. So one of my like fun missions is always trying to create these superfood cocktails. I have an entire chapter in my new book, Superfood Cocktails. It was a very, very fun chapter to research. And so for the margaritas, I have this here because I'm going to show you how to make a mocktail too if anybody does not want the booze. So basically what's going to happen is we're first going to create watermelon juice. And the reason I love to talk about watermelon is first, I think a lot of people are under this assumption that watermelon is super high in calories and sugar. It's not. Watermelon, like the name says, it's like 90+% water. It's so refreshing. It's so hydrating. It's so good for you. And it's packed with vitamin C. And vitamin C is a big immune booster, which is really important right now. And that was one of the questions that came in. So we're going to talk about immune boosting a little bit in more detail a little bit later. The other cool thing about watermelon is you guys have probably heard that tomatoes are loaded with this antioxidant that is not readily available in a lot of foods, and it's called lycopene. And lycopene is great because it reduces the risk of certain cancers, and it's also fabulous for a glowing complexion, your skin, and it helps to prevent the harmful rays of the sun from doing damage to your skin. So watermelon during the summer is one of those fruits you really want to take advantage of. And hey, if you mix it with a little tequila, even better. Okay, so I am putting in here 2 cups of diced watermelon because we're going to make 100% watermelon juice. So I'm putting it in. And I'm going to blend this up. It's going to happen really quickly. So it's going to be a little bit noisy. It was fast, right? Okay. You guys, I have to tell you, I was making gazpacho the other day, and the sound just reminded me of this, and it was in a Cuisinart, and I went to press the button, and there was a leak in my Cuisinart, and I was live, and it went everywhere. I mean, everywhere. I had a swimming pool of tomato juice all over my floor. It was crazy. I was like slushing in it. Yeah, it was funny.
What type of blender is that, Joy?
This is a Ninja.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, honestly, I like all of the high-speed blenders. There's so many great ones out on the market, Vitamix and Ninja. Is this the Bullet? Oh, and Cuisinart and KitchenAid. Yeah, I collect gadgets. So this island here it's hollow in the inside with all sorts of like drawers and cabinets and different compartments. And I must have like 100+ gadgets underneath here. And then like I have another space in the basement. I just collect gadgets. My husband loves cars. I love kitchen gadgets. Okay, so now we have our watermelon juice. And this makes 2. So I'm gonna pour this into the glasses. It's right here. Okay, and now I'm doing, so this is 2 tablespoons of lime juice. Make believe I have a shaker. A little bit of lime juice, a little bit of lime juice. And so in this one, I'm going to add tequila, about 1 ounce of tequila, which is about 2 tablespoons. And in this one, I'm gonna add, this is a LaCroix watermelon flavor. It's a brand new one from them. It's called Pancake. It's amazing. And full disclosure, I'm obsessed with the company. I work with the company, but it's like the most perfect drink if you want to make a mocktail. So I'm going to add this in. I'm going to stir this up. And then last but not least, I took watermelon cubes and froze them so they become watermelon ice cubes. So I'm going to clunk them in, about 3 in each glass. And it just makes it a little bit more special. Put one more in here, my vodka one, my tequila one. And I guess I should stir it. Hold on. I wish that at this point we could all hold our glasses and cheers. But there you go, a mocktail and a watermelon margarita. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. They look scrumptious.
They're really good.
And refreshing too.
And super simple. You know, like my whole thing is I don't want to be in the kitchen slaving. I want to be able to make things that are delicious, that are good for you, but don't take a long time. So what I'll do is before I'll turn it over to you guys for questions, you had sent me a few questions that I printed out. You want me to go through them?
Yes.
Would that be okay?
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Joy.
Okay, you got it. I'm just going to very quickly tidy up over here. Only because I'm in the midst of a mess.
Don't forget which one has the tequila in it.
This is the one with tequila. Okay. It is a little early. But it is a pandemic, you know.
Right.
Okay. One of the questions was about recommendations to best limit carb intake when you have pre-diabetes. What are some good foods for pre-diabetics? So when it comes to diabetes, I think the most important thing is to choose the healthier carbs. When we're talking, vegetables are carbs, but I know that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about the starchier carbs. So you want to pick things like whole grains and sweet potatoes and brown rice or oats, the things that have the fiber, because when you're taking in these starchy carbs and they have fiber, fiber helps to slow down the absorption of carbohydrate in the bloodstream so that you won't get a massive spike. So, you know, for example, if it were a white pasta, you would get a sharper spike than if it were a whole grain pasta. It would be a little bit slower to elevate. But at the same time, you definitely want to balance those carbs, the amounts of them. So 1/2 to 1 cup, 1 to 2 slices of whole grain bread with protein and with some healthy fat, because the protein, like the fiber, and the healthy fat, like the fiber, also help to slow down the absorption of carbohydrates in the blood. And another question that had come in, I'm going to throw in here. What are some of the quickest or easiest ways to slash your carbs? So one of the things I would say is at snack time to munch on nuts or seeds. They are naturally low to no carb. They've got protein, they have fiber, and they have all of that like heart healthy fat. So nuts are fabulous, and all sorts of nuts, like whatever nuts you like, just go for. But don't forget about seeds. Seeds never get enough love. So pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, those things are great to munch on also. Also be creative. You can have hummus with baby carrots or bell pepper sticks. You can have sliced turkey, roll it up around pepper sticks and dunk it in some mustard or some hot sauce if you're like me. And then when it comes to slashing carbs, there are so many great ways that we could do it these days. The first thing is, instead of regular pasta noodles, every once in a while you can have zoodles, which are zucchini noodles, or you can have spaghetti squash, which is lovely. If you go to the market, they have spiralized versions of beets and sweet potato and all sorts of things, carrots right now, and it still gives you that feel. You could swirl it in your fork, and you could put all sorts of sauce on it, so it can really satisfy a hankering for pasta. The other thing that you could do is use cauliflower rice. Cauliflower rice is terrific, and if you don't love cauli rice, you can at least half it or take a quarter of it and mix it with a brown or wild rice. Wild rice is also a whole grain. When it comes to sandwiches, you know, I had showed you that sandwich before. You could eat your sandwiches open face, and you save yourself a bundle if you lose that top slice. You want to go topless every time that you do that, because all of these small things really do add up. Of course, if you want, you could also certainly wrap sandwiches or burgers in lettuce leaves, but you know, we love carbs and we love bread. So I would say, you know, when you can, even if you go topless, I think like that is a valiant effort. So those are great ways that you can reduce your carb intake.
Joy, can I ask you about the banza or other chickpea-based pastas?
Yes. So there's great pastas that are out right now, like There's one called Tolerant. Bonza's fantastic. And they're utilizing legumes, so beans or lentils, in their formulations. One thing I will say is sometimes they tend to be a little bit gummier. So really play and experiment with the cooking time, so you nail the texture that you're going after. You don't necessarily follow exactly what the box says, because you might like it a little bit different. I love that they're higher in protein, they're higher in fiber. So from a diabetic standpoint, yes, they're way better for you, because they're going to be a slower rise in your blood sugar. One thing I will say though, for people that are looking to lose weight or maintain their weight, they can be very caloric. So it's not necessarily like they're free foods or they're calorie free, but they're made with the good stuff. So I really do like to utilize those. My kids tend to much prefer regular traditional pasta, so we sort of like balance it out a little bit. Sometimes we'll go for the beans, sometimes we'll go for the regular pasta. My kids keep me honest, for sure. Somebody asked, what vitamin supplements do you recommend? So I generally do recommend a multivitamin. I feel like we don't eat perfectly every single day, and sometimes it's like just for our psyche. It fills any nutritional gaps or holes that we might, you know, come across on a day-to-day basis. In terms of other vitamins, like right now with COVID, you know, full disclosure, I've been taking extra vitamin C, about 500 milligrams a day. I definitely take vitamin D, D as in David, every day, because normally they don't fit enough in a multi. And, you know, if I start to get sniffles, I would, thankfully I haven't yet, but I do have zinc on board just in case. Elderberry is very interesting to me. It's hard in a general group like this to really give vitamin and mineral recommendations, but there are all sorts of things that you can treat through supplements. It's just very personalized. So, you know, for example, if you're dealing with migraines, you might want to consider magnesium and things like that. But I think everybody could really benefit just from a multivitamin mineral. Okay, and two more questions I'm definitely gonna do. One is, what are the best ways to boost my immunity? So I think first and foremost, what I'm gonna say to you is get enough sleep. Guys, this is so important. Sleep can make or break the difference with your immune system, and the sweet spot is about 8 hours each night. Usually the range is 7 to 9 hours. I know it's like a fantasy world to feel like every single day we're going to be able to get that amount of sleep, but try your best to make that happen most days a week. The second thing is to hydrate. Keep your body well hydrated. And a great rule of thumb is to take your weight, divide it in half, and that's about the amount of ounces that you need of water on a daily basis. And bubbled water like LaCroix, that all counts towards your water allotment. And here's something cool. Coffee and tea counts towards those daily ounces as well. So remember, take your weight, divide it in half, and that's the amount of ounces at least that you need every single day in water. Flat, bubbled, coffee, or tea. The other thing is to exercise. Exercise for at least 30 minutes a day. Walking counts. Exercise boosts your immune system. It increases the amount of something we call killer cells. It gives you more germ fighting oomph. So you're going to get enough sleep, you're going to exercise, you're going to get enough water and hydration. And of course, the last thing, I'm the food lady, is to load up on immune boosting foods. So those are going to be your vitamin C rich foods, things like your citrus fruits, the 3 Bs, bell peppers, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, strawberries have a lot of vitamin C. And if there's only one food you can remember for vitamin C, it's bell peppers. 1 bell pepper a day has more than 200% of your daily requirement for vitamin C. The second thing would be beta carotene. Think bright orange and deep green produce. Spinach, kale, Swiss chard, carrots. So all of these foods, all of the winter squashes, they're loaded with beta carotene. And mushrooms. Mushrooms have antiviral properties. So if you are a mushroom lover, go for it. The more, the better. And the very last question I'm going to answer is, I saw it somewhere. Basically, I just remember because we had a number of people ask the very same question, and that was, how can I sort of get my health mojo back in action, get back on track with my diet after being in quarantine? And I have been hearing this over and over again from people, and I totally understand it's so hard because we sort of viewed the first few weeks, months of the pandemic quarantine as a prolonged snow day. And we stayed in our sweatpants and we went from the couch to the fridge and the couch and the fridge, and everybody sort of like threw their health plan out the window. It's really, really important now, guys. We have to take care of ourselves. You have to make your health a top priority. And the easiest way to do that and get yourself motivated is to first get your head in the game. Figure out what is your reason for wanting to get back on track and to get healthy. Is it because you don't want to have a recurrence of an old health issue? Is it because you want to be around for your kids and your grandkids, because you want to feel more comfortable in your skin? You want to be more productive? You want to reduce any kind of, early dementia onsets? Like, find your reason, write it on Post-it notes, put it all over the place, on the side of your fridge, on your screensaver. You need to know what it is. The second thing I would say is to set short-term goals. You could have a long-term goal. I love long-term goals. We all need them. We're goal-oriented, but it's the short-term goals. Every single week, you should have a goal that you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's, I'm going to incorporate produce into each of my meals this week. Maybe it's, I'm going to walk 30 minutes each and every day. Maybe it's, I want to lose half a pound. No matter what your goal is, make it official. Work out an Excel spreadsheet or some sort of format that really feels formal, and set these weekly goals, because the weekly goals add up so quickly and they snowball. They take on a life of its own. And the cool thing is that you don't have to start feeling good when you hit the finish line. You start feeling fabulous and healthy and great and energetic when you start. And so if you start today, I'm telling you, by tomorrow, you are going to feel markedly better. And before I hand it over to you guys, I have one challenge. I made 3 different dishes. We made the Savory garden pancakes with the yogurt herb dipping sauce. We made the Tarragon chicken salad. And of course, we made our watermelon margaritas. So I challenge you guys to make one of these, take a picture, put it on story, Instagram story, tag me. And the first person that does that, I'm going to send you a signed copy of my new book. Ian, do you have my new book anywhere? I think it's like holding up a tripod. And what you can do is, if you already have it or you don't necessarily want it, you can give it as a gift to somebody, and you can tell me to sign it to whoever you want me to sign it to. But I need evidence. I need a picture. Okay, so here it is. It's fat. It's really, really fat. Joy Bauer's Superfoods. And remember, guys, there's an entire chapter of superfood cocktails and superfood pizza and superfood French fries. But I had a lot of fun being here today. I hope you guys learned a ton. I hope I got you really hungry.
Thank you, Joy. There was so much fun. I loved every single recipe, and I'm going to be making them all. I thought it was fabulous. And, we want to thank you for your time today, and thank you for supporting White Plains Hospital and our shared mission to help people live healthier lives. Your recipes are easy, they're simple, and the ingredients seem easy to access. I just want everyone to know we'll be sharing Joy's recipes and a link to her website and through email with a post-survey question. So please keep your eye out. And last but not least, I want to consider people to consider joining the Friends of White Plains Hospital or to learn more about it, because altogether it's an enjoyable and rewarding experience. And Joy, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Stay healthy, and I'd like to say everyone stay safe also.
Bye, guys. Mwah.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.